Each year, over 200 players are drafted into the NFL. Fans focus on the early draft picks for the immediate impact, but teams take pride in getting value in the lower rounds. That's why this week's Top 5 focuses on the top 5 draft gems in Eagles history. Those players picked in the 5th round or later. Coming in at number 5, second only to Reggie White in career sacks as an Eagle, the Hunter, 5th round pick, Trent Cole.
I think there's one word that personifies Trent Cole, it's motor. You talk about a guy who's a little bit undersized, who's taking on defensive linemen who probably have 30, 40, 50 pounds on him, and the sheer strength that he has and the will says it all. I mean, that draft pick was an absolute steal. He's a guy who probably doesn't get talked about enough in the pantheon of Eagles who get to the quarterback.
Coming in at number 4, a small school running back who tore through the Dallas defense on his way to setting the Eagles' career rushing record. 6th round pick, Wilbur Montgomery.
Abilene Christian, right? How many people even know where they know where Abilene Christian is. It's in Texas. Everything Christian's in Texas, I think, isn't it? But when Wilbur Montgomery came into the league, another guy, unheralded, who is this guy? But he was he became quickly in this city one of the most beloved players because he ran hard, he was a little guy, and he was on a team that went to a Super Bowl.
My first jersey as a kid was Wilbur Montgomery. I still have the jersey, believe it or not. I knew, even at 5, how big it was to beat Dallas in that NFC title game and what he did and the emotions that carried out and the big run that Wilbur had. And so Wilbur, that 31 always plays a special role in my house.
Coming in at number 3 and at number 2, 2 players who personified the gangrene defense of the Buddy Ryan era.
What Buddy Ryan was able to do late in drafts, to me, is what separated him from a lot of coaches. I thought he was a brilliant personnel man, but that team is littered, the Buddy Ryan era is littered with great low-round picks.
The idea, though, that you can build a defense, the best defense, I think, in Eagles history, around an 8th round pick and a 9th round pick, and Clyde and Seth, really stands out.
Seth and Clyde, to me, are inseparable. Even though one's a linebacker and one's a defensive lineman, that defense will always be married. There'll always be one cohesive unit.
Clyde Simmons left the Eagles second in team history in sacks to Reggie White.
Clyde Simmons, 9th round, which is just amazing. 9 rounds, I know they went to 12, but still, thank goodness we cut that down. But still, what a steal that was in the draft. We're talking about a guy who's on the other side of Reggie White. So if they're gonna double team Reggie, it's common sense kicks in. Clyde Simmons you gotta have somebody on the other side that can hold up his end of the bargain. Clyde Simmons did exactly that. I believe in 4 years with the Eagles, he totaled 55 sacks. That's incredible.
Clyde Simmons probably overlooked a little bit because he shared the defensive line with Reggie White and Jerome Brown, but Clyde Simmons, in and of himself, was a phenomenal pass rusher. There is one play that stands out for me with Clyde Simmons. You're in the Meadowlands. You have a field goal blocked, which didn't reach the line of scrimmage. Clyde Simmons blocking, picks it up, and runs it in for a touchdown. Now that's a play a lot of people tend to forget about. That showed the kind of athleticism that Clyde Simmons had.
Seth Joyner brought swagger to an already gifted defense, and for an 8th round pick, what more could you ask?
Seth Joyner was personified toughness. Seth Joyner was a guy who brought attitude to a team that was already really good, but he brought an edge, an intimidation that you don't see a lot of times.
Seth Joyner was a hitter. I mean, those were the days when you used to, look at the highlight and it would be our hits. And Seth Joyner came to play. I loved his style.
And coming in at number 1, a player drafted in the 7th round with little fanfare, but with stats that still lead the Eagles today. Number 17, Harold Carmichael.
My number 1 would be Harold Carmichael. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was a 7th round draft pick from a tiny school, Southern University, that nobody knew about, that the Eagles picked up deep in the draft when most people had stopped paying attention. And he came to the Eagles and really had to learn the game, but ultimately wound up playing a very long time, wound up catching more passes for more yards and scoring more touchdowns than any player in the history of the franchise.
Well, Howard Carmichael was a beast that we didn't see back in those days. You didn't see many 6'7" receivers. Receivers were the Mike Quick types, not that tall, 6'1", maybe 6'2", but Harold was another dimension.
When they brought him in here and they handed out the sheet after they drafted him, we all looked at the sheet and it said 6'8", and that's got to be a misprint. That's probably they must mean 6'3". There's no receivers that are 6'8". And when they brought the guys in like a week later to actually work them out on the field at the old vet, I remember being down in the field with a group of us, and Harold Carmichael came walking out of the tunnel in his uniform, and our reaction was, oh my God, because we'd never seen a football player that looked like that. I mean, he really looked like a basketball player. He did not look like a football player.
So there you have it, your top 5 draft gems of all time. Let us know what you think on Twitter using @EagleShows, #EaglesTop5.